it's supposed to be a heterosexual African American, then we are stepping into the shoes of a heterosexual African American. If it's a mother, we're stepping into the shoes of the mother or a child. When we jump into it, we see that person's situation and we get an entirely new viewpoint. When you're sitting outside of that, you can look in and go, well, of course, there's obviously a way to do it, but that may not necessarily have even occurred to the person in the first place. And there may be a very good reason they may have occurred to them, but they may not have actually been able to do it. We don't really know. There's a lot of otherness that happens that really isn't in video games. When we see a character on the screen of a TV, or a movie, we can often go, well, why doesn't he just do that? It could be that he's in such a weird position that he's not thinking clearly. Maybe he's just not quite as smart. There are 100 of answers, but it's still going to be that he didn't do it. But in games, you can do it. You can find out why you can't do it. Why that's not how the story goes, or why that is how the story goes. Why that is actually why he does it. Maybe he does it later on. There's a certain level of the ability to jump into somebody else's shoes and actually do things. And there really isn't anything quite like games right now. There are plenty of things that go into games, but there isn't anything that's kind of sprung out of games. Games are kind of a singular thing. I guess besides maybe even tabletop games, I guess like Dungeons and Dragons, things like that. Besides those, I think there's pretty much nothing that's even remotely close to them. There's a lot of very kind of sit the person down and tell a story. That there isn't. It's really like the difference between a book and a choose-your-own-adventure book. One you have control over, the other you don't really. Of at least what the characters are doing. Movies don't really let the person figure out what's happening. They show the person. They tell or show the person what the character feels and thinks and what they're doing. It's the same way with books or plays. But a difference between plays is that plays can be different. The actors could make a mistake. They could have forgotten to put a certain part of the main character's outfit on, and it could look entirely different. One version could make him look like a strong, valiant knight, and the other could look like a strong, valiant knight with no pants on. So either way, it can alter it. It can turn, Conan, a proud, strong character, into a laughingstock, into Monty Python. Which it's a little bit like it, but it's also not, because the actors have a say in what's happening. They could choose to alter things. The watchers don't. The people who are watching, listening to people talk, who are looking up and watching the play take place, they don't really have any kind of way to interact with that medium. They're not going to change the way it's working. It will play out like it will play out, no matter what they do to it. Now that we know what video games are, at least, we can say, well, why are video games art? Why? Obviously, that's my point of view. So why are video games art? I guess the main thing is it's an exploration. Many people have drawn explorations, have written about explorations of who they are, of what's happening to them. It doesn't necessarily have to be them doing it, but they can explore a point of view. Ayn Rand did this a lot in her many books. Her political philosophies were often what was done there. Her views on sexuality, government, these kind of things. That's a really important thing. We can show somebody else what we feel. Of course, it can happen other things, but because video games can show them, and they can ironically show them in an entirely different way than we've ever seen them before, they're almost like adding a new color to the color wheel. It's an entirely different look, an entirely different take on a point of view. There's been things like, I think I already mentioned it, V for Vendetta. The author of that comic book was very strongly stuck in the idea that anarchy was the only way to run the world. Whether you agree with it or not, it's at least an interesting point of view and worthy of at least some exploration. It's an interesting idea that complete lack of government could be a better way to run the world than having somebody look over your shoulder. There's also, like I said before, District 9, which is exploring what it might be like to be in that slave era. There have been countless movies about World War II and what it was like to live in the concentration camps. These are all important things that we have to remember. There's also, of course, there's a certain amount of information and teaching that we can do with video games. In the same way that a book could, let's say, for example, teach you about the feudal era of Japan, or King Arthur, the stories about King Arthur. I don't know, the Crusades. Games can teach in the same way. Just as a book can teach, or a movie can teach. A game can teach by by making a character run around doing something interesting, capture the person's imagination, make the person go, wow, that's really cool. I wonder who that person is. Then all they have to do is look it up. You could make a game about playing as Augustus Caesar. You know, one of the last great emperors of Rome, swaying the world with his power. And maybe you didn't know about Augustus Caesar before. Go on Wikipedia or some other thing and type things in and go, oh, I didn't know that about Augustus Caesar. I can pull it up right now and I can find out more about this historical character who I didn't know of before. Leonidas, the main character from the movie 300. I'm sure a lot of people who watched that movie did not know who Leonidas was before, but went, oh, hey, Leonidas looks pretty cool in that movie. I wonder who he actually is. Types Leonidas' name into Wikipedia and finds out all about the Battle of Thermopylae. These are all fascinating things, and I think it can really change the way we view education, art, the view of the person who's watching it, as well as the person making the art. You know, psychologists always talked about, you know, why are we going to go see a tragedy? Why a horror? But we never really find out, why is the person making a horror? Why is the person writing a tragedy? Why do these things exist in the first place? We know why we want to watch it, why we want to hear about it, to find out about it, but we don't really know why someone would make it. There are definitely theories out there, but there's not as much study. Either way, I'm positive you can tell that I definitely think that video games are a legitimate art. Whether anyone on the face of the earth is ever going to realize that in my lifetime, I really don't know. I hope to. So I know you probably know from seeing this. I personally want to get into the video game industry myself as a designer, and whether I'll be Leonardo da Vinci or Picasso, I don't know. But I hope to be at least recognized as an artist at some point, whether before or after my death. However, I really don't think I'm going to be cutting off my ears anytime soon. I kind of like them being attached. In any case, I hope you enjoyed my lecture. Hope you have a good day.